The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
The Tom. Dan. Credo. Show.
Good evening, it is the Tom 10 Credo Show. Jerry Corsi has joined us again. Jerry, great to have you on.
Thanks, Tom. Always a great pleasure to be with you.
Jerry, I just wonder if the fact that your book was coming out when it was last month do you think that for any now let's set this up for people who don't know? First of all, I can't imagine there's anybody that listens to this program or listens to talk radio that doesn't know about Jerry Corsi and what he has done for this country over time. I mean, you remember, people might remember the whole thing about swift boating and the end of a particular career. That was the result of Mr. Corsi's fine work. He is a New York Times best-selling author. He's a Harvard graduate, an investigative journalist. He works and does work for WorldNet Daily also, as do I, but he does a lot better work for WorldNet Daily than I ever could do. And he has written a new book about the problems with Mr. Obama's birth certificate, and it was to come out almost at the exact same time that, it was to come out in about April the 24th, was it, Jerry?
It was right. Originally, it was going to come out about April 24th. Our book came out May 17th.
May 17th, and there was speculation because there was a great deal of information in that book that contradicts the president's claim about his birth certificate, and even the new and revised version, I guess we can say, of his birth certificate.
The new revised, forged edition. Let's make sure we add that. Forged
edition. That's right. And as I say, do you think that there was any coincidence to the fact that they decided to do that in light of the fact that your book was coming out?
Well, I think the book forced Obama to come out with that forged birth certificate in an attempt to destroy the book, to quash the story. But it hasn't worked. I mean, Tom, we had a discussion. Joseph Farron said to me, the publisher, WorldNet Daily, said maybe we should title this book Ineligible for Command, like off of Unfit for Command.
Right.
I said, no, we want to keep it where's the birth certificate, because I thought it was 50-50. We could force Barack Obama to get scared and to flinch and to release this document. And I wanted him to, there's two things that are now different. One is Barack Obama now is in the chain of evidence. With the certification of live birth, Barack Obama could have said, my staff did it or somebody did it, I wasn't involved. But now Barack Obama sent his lawyer out to Hawaii supposedly to get this document. He came down to the press room in the White House and said, this is my birth certificate. So now Barack Obama owns that document. And now the White House has published it on their website, of course, the electronic version, which didn't exist in 1961. The electronic version, now the White House owns that document, and the future of the Obama presidency depends on that birth certificate being released in April 27th as being an authentic document. Once it's conclusively shown to be a fraudulent document, it's hard to see how Barack Obama will remain in office.
Well, yeah, that's the question that has plagued us, and certainly me, from the beginning of this dilemma and this discussion about his birth certificate, and that is, what do we do with him if it turns out to be that he is proven to be unfit to be in the office based upon the constitutional provision that requires a natural-born citizen to be president of the United States. And so, again, maybe we should just go over that a little bit in terms of what you think would happen if there's no way around it. They will not be able to get around it. It is proven that indeed he is not a natural-born U.S. citizen. What do you think would happen then, politically or legally?
And I want to come back to this because there's more than one reason. It's not just that forged birth certificate, but he was a dual citizen at birth because his father was born in Kenya, and he was dual citizen of the Commonwealth of Great Britain, as well as a U.S. citizen. And the Constitution does not allow dual citizens to be natural-born citizens. We'll come back to that. That's a separate reason Barack Obama is ineligible. That alone should have stopped it right away. Barack Obama refused to present his birth credentials to Congress at the same time John McCain did. We'll come on back to that. But once the American people realized that there was a felony, criminal felony, happened to create this forged document, and that Barack Obama is complicit in the forgery, I don't see how he's going to be allowed to remain in office. American people, I don't think, will tolerate that. Now, if Barack Obama is removed or resigned or removed from office, it's conceivable to me that Joe Biden is also removed because the entire ticket was ineligible, given that Barack Obama was ineligible. And it could well be that the presidency becomes the Speaker of the House, John Boehner. Now, it could also be then that all the bills that Barack Obama signed, all his executive orders, all of his actions as president are also null and void, because if Barack Obama was not eligible to be president, it was fraudulently in the office, well then, in fact, all of his actions are fraudulent. It's going to be a constitutional crisis.
Yeah, a constitutional crisis is absolutely the correct phrase to apply to this. We'll be right back with Jerry Corsi, his new book, Where's the Birth Certificate? The Case That Obama Is Not Eligible to Be President. Tom Tancredo will be right back with you on 740 KBOR.
Tea Party Radio with Tom Tancredo. The Tom Tancredo Show.
Tom Tancredo here with you, and along with me, a good friend and an enormously influential writer and commentator on public policy in the United States, Jerome Corsi. Mr. Corsi is he is a Harvard graduate, and I always tell him I will not hold it against him. He's earned his spurs even after that, and has written a number of books that have had just fantastic impact. The Abomination, Leftist Politics and the Cult of Personality, a best-selling book. Unfit for Command, of course, the Swift Boat veterans speak out against John Kerry, that actually brought the whole Kerry campaign to a crashing halt. Really done great work, and attacked constantly, of course, because of the things he writes and says, but he does meticulous research, and that's what I want people to understand here. I would not have anybody on this show who simply wanted to talk about the birth certificate issue. For all intents and purposes, with the exception of Dr. Corsi, I'd say, well, it's over with. There's nothing more to really do about it, even if, it's too hard to prove at this point, and nobody would really care. But Dr. Corsi is a different thing altogether in terms of his opinions, his research. As I say, it's meticulous. Really cannot be challenged. They can call him names, and they do. But the research is there, and his new book, Where's the Birth Certificate? The Case That Obama Is Not Eligible to Be President, is just what I've described. It is full of meticulous research. Dr. Corsi, you don't write these books just to make a little bit of a political statement or a few headlines. I mean, I believe you are a true patriot, and you do this from your love of the country.
Well, that's right, Tom. I mean, there's also an easier way to make a living. I was successful for 25 years in financial services, and I'm still a managing director at Guilford Securities in New York City. But we just released on WorldNet Daily today, it's published just before we went on air, the article, take a look on WND's homepage, WND.com. I was warned by a Hawaii intelligence source. I've been working in Hawaii, been in Hawaii multiple times. I've hired private investigators. I've got great sources in Hawaii. I was warned a month before the White House made public their forged document, that the document had been forged and it had been placed into the logbook. We have had a mole within the Hawaii Department of Health that went into the logbook room, read it to us from the logbook, told us the document had been forged. Kapiolani had been named as the hospital. Source was almost too scared to take a picture of it, couldn't remember the name of the doctor, but said there was a doctor on it. And I've documented this. Joseph Farah published the article today. We have proof I knew about this on February 24th.
The name of the doctor, that part is something I want to talk about for just a second or two. Now, there is a name, there is a doctor. He has passed away, correct?
Correct. And
convenient? Well,
that doctor,
who knows?
It's convenient the doctor's dead, but the White House made no effort to find it. The wife said she never knew this doctor had given birth to Obama. He never talked about it. And the White House has made no effort to see if this doctor's records are still available, to go into the records and see if the mother, Ann Dunham, was ever a patient. I'm sure she was not. Also, Kapiolani Hospital has not released Ann Dunham's patient records. I know that for a fact the patient records don't exist. And I've been reporting on this going back to 2008. Remember, in the book, if you'll see, I document that the Obama people were saying for a long time that he was born in Queens Medical Hospital. In fact, the genealogist of the Smithsonian had written Queens Medical Hospital as the birth hospital for Obama, and that was in the Smithsonian records. Of course, when the Obama people changed the story in 2009 and said, no, he was born in Kapiolani, all these sources scrubbed their internet sites and put down that he was born in not Queens, but Kapiolani, and even the genealogical record in the Smithsonian was altered.
Let's go back to the document for a second that has been forged, as you say. What evidence do you have of that? I mean, first of all, we have the people. I mean, the individual that you mentioned, a mole in the office there that said this has happened, took a picture of it, or was going to. Did he actually take a picture of it?
No, they were too scared. Ran out.
Okay.
Called us immediately and told us what was in it.
All right. What evidence do you have, however, that it indeed is a forgery?
Well, the White House could not put out a request for proposal to get the best forger in the world. They were stuck with the people around them. And so whoever forged this document may have known the Adobe software, but they weren't an expert in forging documents. So the White House, for some reason, released an electronic form with the document that shows clearly that it's not just the document shows layers in Adobe, but there's clear evidence that the data in the document had been manipulated electronically, and the document had been created electronically. I've got one of the top experts in the world on scanners. I'll be writing about this in WorldNet Daily on Monday and Tuesday. This week, there's being, I think it was filed even today, a criminal complaint with the FBI and the Department of Justice that documents clearly that the White House released electronic file is a forgery. There's obvious indications of it. I'll give you one or two as a preview here, Tom. The document appears to be curved as it bends into a book. You can see that in the White House released version. Well, the print does not bend. In other words, Kapiolani Hospital is on a straight line. So the print was superimposed on a template of a birth certificate that was bent so it looked like it was in a book. And in fact, what the White House released was a composite of several different birth certificates that had been cut and pasted to make this document. It's clear indications of document forgery and modification of the letters. I mean, obvious things. If you just take the number up at the top, 10641 of the birth certificate, and look at it under magnification, the 1 is obviously a picture, a JPEG, that was inserted into the document, and the pixels around it show clear evidence of masking. Whoever did this didn't know how to repair the pixels, so the obvious indication that the JPEG had been placed in the number is clearly there. Experts can distinguish these features almost easily.
And that's the part that is just, Jerry, you're right. They don't put out an RFP for someone who is an expert forger, but they had to have, it seems to me, with all the money that they've got and the expertise that they could bring in and bring to bear on this, you'd say to yourself, how in the world would they end up with an amateur creating this stuff? On the other hand, you say to yourself, what risk do you take if you actually, how broad a net do you throw out in order to identify the people who are going to do this? There is a huge, incredible thing hanging over Obama and company's head if this is all accurate, and that's the person who's done this. Either they're going to end up at the bottom of some lake or in the cement that goes to build a new stadium somewhere, or they're going to be rich beyond their wildest dreams because this person will have the greatest ability to blackmail the President of the United States of anyone that's ever lived.
Well, I think the forger even put his signature into the document. It's pretty remarkable. Take a look at this stamp. There's a stamp here that the state registrar in Hawaii, whose name is Elvin Onaka, placed on the document. This stamp was supposed to validate that this is an accurate record of what's on file in the Hawaii Department of Health. Well, there's, first of all, take a look at that stamp under about 800% magnification. There's a misspelling in it. The "the" is a TXE or a TKE. It's not a THE. Now, I've looked at Dr. Onaka's stamps, hundreds of them. They never have a misspelling in them. Nobody uses a stamp with a misspelling in it. Certainly not the president's birth certificate. A stamp with a misspelling on it is quickly recognized and discarded. And secondly, if you blow up the A in Alvin, you see there's a smiley face in the loop of the A. Now, that smiley face is formed with an E that is written into the loop of the A. So you got the last two letters there of KE, and I can also show you in that document where you can find the MI. So Mike is written into this document. I'm pretty confident Mike is the first name of the guy who forged it.
Well, this Mike, he is sitting in the catbird seat, as we would say. Hang in there if you can with me, Jerry. We've got some callers on the line, and we also want to talk about where we go from here legally. This is Tom Tancredo. We'll be right back.
Tea Party Radio with Tom Tancredo.
Now, I know that there's going to be a segment of people for which, no matter what we put out, this issue will not be put to rest.
This is the Tom Tancredo Show.
No matter what he says, no matter how many people attest to the authenticity of that document, the fact is he didn't do it for 2 years. He did not put it out. And the question is, it rings so loud, I think it should in everyone's mind. Even if it's true, why didn't you do it? Even if it's accurate, what was the purpose of holding on to it for all this time? That's the part that has, another part of this thing that certainly has always bugged me. And no matter what he says now, I mean, like I say, if the document's accurate, why did you do it? If it is not accurate, why in the world did you do it? Anyway, Jerry.
How did this document suddenly appear when Governor Abercrombie said it didn't exist only a few weeks earlier?
Yeah.
That's where I say I was tipped off before February 24th when I warned Joseph Farah the document had been forged and put into that book. And take a look at some of the documents I've recently published. It was in Kenya searching for, I was deported out of Kenya. Going to give a press conference the last day I was there, but I had excellent contacts. I was in Kenya for 10 days. I've continued to get documents out of Kenya.
You were deported on what basis? On what basis did they deport you?
I published the documents from the Kenyan government. The government of Kenya was looking for Barack Obama's birth certificate records in Kenya since 2007, and the government reported internally, first of all, that they had done an investigation, and the 1961 birth records in Kenya had been criminally altered so as to remove the evidence of Barack Obama's birth in Kenya and to disguise the birth certificates around it, to disguise the fact that it had been removed. Now, that's on a Kenyan government document, and the Kenyan government then wrote to Ambassador Rannenberg, and I published this letter. While George Bush was in office, George Bush was looking for Barack Obama's birth certificate in Kenya when he was president. And the Kenyan government wrote to Ambassador Rannenberg in 2008, said, we don't have Obama's birth certificate, but we have proof that documents are missing, and there's been criminal tampering in the document birth records in 1961 in Kenya. The Kenyan government's always believed that Obama was born there, and their intelligence service, I've got a document of the intelligence service, the NSIS, the secret intelligence service in Kenya, that even though they can't find right now Obama's birth certificate in Kenya, it doesn't mean it wasn't once there. Criminal altering of the records in Kenya is pretty strong evidence that Barack Obama, probably since 2006 when he went over on a Senate visit and met with Odinga, from then on I think that they knew they had to destroy the records of his birth in Kenya. I'm pretty confident his grandmother, Sarah, probably told Obama for the first time maybe when Obama went over to Kenya in college that he was born there.
Jerry, you mentioned that you were deported from Kenya. On what basis?
Well, the Kenyan government, I've even got the papers signed by Odinga deporting me and all the internal papers. They said I was there trying to sell my book, and I didn't have a entry visa to allow me to do that. Well, Kenya told me when I was, when they brought us in for questioning that day, they couldn't find our records when we came into the country. When I came in with my publicist, we signed the entry documents and told them that I'd written this book. There was only one case of the book. This is the Abomination in Kenya at that time. I bought the book. I was not there to sell a book. I mean, Abomination was already New York Times #1 bestseller for a month. I didn't need to sell a box of books in Kenya. I was there to do research on Obama.
The Kenyans are having a hard time holding on to documents, it sounds like.
Well, they're sending a good deal of them, my way. And as I tell people, when I was in Israel writing Why Israel Can't Wait, I met with two former heads of the Mossad, and the Israeli intelligence service. I think probably just about every major intelligence service in the world has investigated Obama's birth records in Kenya, and if so, they've all found what I know now and can prove, and that is that the birth records in 1961 in Kenya were criminally tampered with, and the Kenyan government believes the tampering was aimed at destroying Obama birth records. They've identified some 40 or so instances of tampering with the birth records that were a pattern that would have been a pattern to eliminate Obama's birth records in Mombasa, and to make sure that they tried to cover it up by altering the birth records around Obama's birth record. So that's pretty strong evidence right there that Obama, those two documents that I've already published are Kenyan government documents.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the possibility or the whatever opportunities might present themselves in these circumstances to pursue this in a court of law. If it isn't criminal, in a civil matter. I mean, you need less in terms of proof or anything to bring a civil action. Are you contemplating that? I had heard that you're contemplating a suit.
Well, what's happened is this: I've been working with, I'll publish this on Monday and Tuesday, and I'll need the weekend to write it up, but I'll publish it Monday, Tuesday in WorldNet Daily. One of the top scanner experts in the world has written an extensive file proving that the Obama birth certificate released on April 27th was created in a computer and was manipulated in the computer as a composite. The document releases a composite of several different birth certificates crudely put together. And that is being this week, may have been today, filed with the FBI and the Department of Justice asking for a criminal investigation. I've got all the documents from the scanner expert. I've got the proof of it. We'll be publishing it Monday, Tuesday in WorldNet Daily.
Jerry, I don't. My guess is they're not going to agree to that.
Well,
that's just my guess.
That's all right, Tom. I think it's going to take. My estimate's going to take about 2 months. About 2 months from now, the American people will understand how and why that document was forged. As I said, one of my strategies from the very beginning was to see if we kept the title of the book, Where's the Birth Certificate? Joseph Farris said maybe we should change the title to, ineligible for command, like unfit for command. And I said, no, Joseph, let's keep the title. And Joseph said, well, if they're going to release a forged document, they'll try to block the marketing of the book. I said, well, that may slow us down for a little bit, but we're going to gain the following advantages. One, Obama will own the forged document, and Obama now came down into the White House press room, said he sent his lawyer to find it. Obama's now in the chain of evidence of that document being produced. He wasn't before. He could have said somebody else did the forging on the certification of live birth, and it was without his knowledge. Now he's directly in the chain of evidence of producing this forged document. And secondly, the White House now owns this forged document. They released it as proof of Obama's birth, and if it's forged, the White House is going to have to explain how they published a criminally forged document as proof of Obama's birth. The future of the Obama White House depends on the document released on August 27th being authentic. If it's not authentic, and I think there's excellent forensic evidence that it's not authentic, it's going to be hard to see how the Obama administration will remain in office. I think it'll take about 2 months before the American people really get the point.
Jerry Corsi, thank you for being on the show. It's late, I know, where you are, much later than here. We do appreciate it. And anytime, I'm not Hannity, buddy. I don't have the audience he does, but I will let you on anyway.
I will always. Audience, I think now more than Hannity's. I think Hannity canceling his interview with me an hour or so before it was going to be held. Right. And Steve Malsbury then got the first interview, and Steve did a great job with it. But I'm sure that...
Well, I think, here's hoping that Hannity has to look back and think that was one of the dumber things he's ever done in his life.
Well, he may have passed up an historic opportunity for an interview.
That's right. Well, thank you, my friend. And
always an honor and pleasure, Tom. Thank you.
Mine, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be right back. Tom Tancredo, KVOR 710. 740.
We do not have time for this kind of silliness. We got better stuff to do. I've got better stuff to do.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.